So Japan is the most awesome, amazing, fantastic place in the world, right? Right? Okay, seriously. If you're planning to come to Japan, or if you're just really interested in Japan and you've been learning about it a long time, reading about it on the internet, you might have heard a lot of stuff, and a lot of it may be not true or sort of true. So I wanted to talk about some things that you may have heard that may not be 100% true. And don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on Japan. I really love Japan. It's an awesome place. I really loved visiting, and I want to go back as soon as I can. But there are some things I learned there that were not quite exactly what I heard on the internet. The first one is that Japan is super clean and there's like no trash anywhere. And it is really clean. I will admit, I rarely saw trash, but I did see some. And so the deal is that at night, especially on the weekends or holidays or something, and especially in like touristy areas, it gets really kind of nasty. There's, bottles and food wrappers and stuff all over the place. But the next morning, before everybody wakes up for school or work or whatever, there are cleaning crews that come out and clean everything and make it spotless. So yes, in the morning, in the daytime, it may be pretty clean. The other thing is that there are no trash cans anywhere, at least public ones, I should say. The only places you'll find them are like the train station or convenience stores usually have them. Otherwise, you just have to carry your trash with you until you get home. The one spot where you'll see them is not really a trash can, but like recycling bins for all the stuff you buy at the multitude of vending machines. So pretty much next to every vending machine you'll see a couple of trash cans that are just for recycling bottles. But a lot of times those trash cans are full, sometimes overflowing with bottles stacked on top. And one in Tokyo that I saw on a side street was actually, it was like a mountain of bottles and stuff just completely covering this trash can. There are a lot of times too where they were full and I had a bottle in my hand and I was walking down the street and I was, every time I got to vending machines I'd look and they're full, so I couldn't put my bottle in there and I would just have to keep walking until I found another one that was hopefully not full and I could finally throw my bottle away. That happened a bunch of times. Okay, you'll also hear that Japan is this wonderful, technologically advanced wonderland, like it's in the future or something. And there's robots everywhere, and obviously that's not exactly like that. And there are a lot of ways that Japan is kind of backwards, such as the fact that almost every business still uses fax machines, which we haven't seen in America since like the late 90s. The other thing is you always hear about these fancy toilets with the squirt you, the bidets or washlets. And so yeah, you do see some of those, but really I think not even all homes or public bathrooms even have those, or even have Western style seat type toilets. A lot of them will still have the old squat type toilets that were starting to get phased out in Japan in the 60s, I think it was. So we stayed at 4 Airbnbs when I was in Japan, and I think only one of them had the fancy bidet washlet toilets. Although they did all have the regular seat types. They were all really modern seeming apartments too. Another thing you might have heard on the internet is that Wi-Fi is everywhere, and that everywhere you go you have full connectivity. This one is far from true. And really, it's hard to find Wi-Fi anywhere unless you have a portable hotspot on you. Now, luckily on my phone, I have T-Mobile in the US, and they have unlimited international data, which was great for me. But for my friends, they would have been stuck if not for the fact that all of our Airbnbs gave us portable hotspots that we could carry around with us. Really helpful. Thank you, Airbnb apartment owners. A couple places you can find it are the train stations. They all have it, but during rush hour it can tend to be really slow. So you're not going to be uploading videos or anything on that. You'll be able to use it for finding maps, using Google, maybe texting someone, but not a whole lot more than that. I've also heard that some of the convenience stores have it, which I didn't even notice when I was there. Lawson apparently has it, and all you have to do with them and the train station is just open your web browser and then click a little button to say, okay, I agree to your terms, and then you can use the internet. A lot of places, like Starbucks, for example, or other places like coffee shops might have it, but you'll be required to be on their special membership, which I don't know anything about. I don't know if you have to pay to be on it or what. It's probably similar to the way Comcast works around here, where all of the train stations in the Philadelphia area have free access to Wi-Fi, but only for Comcast members. Another thing that was going around for a while was that Japanese people are very offended and find it rude when you, as a foreigner, wear a kimono. This, I think, is also the furthest from the truth. They are actually really surprised and excited to see that foreigners are interested in their culture. I myself wore a kimono along with my friends in Kyoto and Arashiyama areas, and nobody even batted an eyelash at us. They didn't even seem to pay us much attention at all. Another thing people say a lot online is that Japan is super healthy for food, and all the food there is really good for you. And they say that's the reason that Japanese people tend to be, or Asians, I should say, tend to be thinner than Americans. Maybe that's partially true. They do have some healthy food, but just like anywhere else in the world, they also have a ton of junk food as well. And in fact, there are services like Japan Crate that specialize in shipping Japanese snacks and junk food over to the US. In fact, there are some areas that are completely famous for their specialty, like traditional Japanese desserts. I've tried some of those and they're really good. As far as regular food goes, there is a lot of seafood they do eat, which might be a little bit better for you, but it is also rather salty. If you're a vegan visiting Japan, then you may have some trouble finding food you can eat. They'll have a lot of food that even if you ask for no meat or say you don't want meat in it, it may still have dashi in it, which is fish stock, and they may be confused when you're asking for no meat because they don't consider dashi to be meat. So that may be a little tricky. One of my friends, when I was in Japan, was a vegan, and she barely had anything to eat until we got to Tokyo, and we finally got some vegetarian or vegan restaurants that we could go to. I think a lot of what really keeps them thin is portion control. If you can see when you order the food there, the dishes that come tend to be a bit smaller than the dishes in America or maybe some other countries. So like, for example, their pizza that they have there, if you order a medium pizza, it's basically the size of a small pizza in America. So that's probably what keeps a lot of their weight down, even if the food is not 100% healthy. Another thing that I heard before going to Japan was that everything was super expensive. That everything you could possibly want would be like double the price it is in America. And that I found to be totally not true at all. The prices are, I found, basically the same as they are in America. So, for example, you could get a meal for under $15, or you could get a bottle of tea or soda for $2. Souvenirs for under $5 if you wanted. Of course, there is really expensive stuff too. You can go to a fancy restaurant and pay $100 per person. My friends and I did that once in Osaka. It was a fantastic meal. But you can also find other really good meals too for $15 or so. They also have hyakuen shops or 100 yen shops that are basically like a dollar store in the US. Maybe other places too. Yeah, so it's like a dollar store, but much higher quality than you would find at the dollar stores in the US, whereas here it's kind of junk. There it's actually pretty high quality stuff, and really good snacks and food is available there too. One thing I read about all the time is how expensive produce is, especially the fancy melons and like watermelons that are shaped like a cube and all. And yeah, those are really expensive, but those are made to be bought as a gift for when you're visiting someone's house, or you're going over to your boss's house and you want to bring something nice. That's they're really expensive because it shows that you care. But otherwise, produce can be a little bit more expensive, but there are places where you can get it for much cheaper than others. Particularly most supermarkets, their meat and produce, like stuff that will go bad, by the end of the day, they have really high quality control. So by the end of the day, they mark prices down even as much as 50%. So it can be really cheap. And you can definitely go to Japan and have a great time for not as much money as you may think. People also say in Japan that everyone is super friendly. And this one I think just needs a little clarification. People will be really helpful if you need help, like if you look lost or something, or if you ask for help. And also customer service is amazing, but it's not always fantastic. For example, if you say hello to people on the street, especially in the big cities, they may just tend to ignore you. They'll just walk right on by. That was a little bit frustrating. It happened to me quite a few times. And my friends were saying, you should probably just not even bother saying hello. But I tried. But another situation that was not great is in the train station. I don't remember if it was Shibuya or Shinjuku station, but when it gets really busy, people just don't even care. All that courtesy just goes right out the window. One guy even shoved me out of his way while he walked past, even though there was plenty of room for him to go around. He just shoved me out of his way and kept on going. So that was actually rather rude. But for the most part, people just kind of keep to themselves. Some people were really nice, though. I remember that when we first arrived, we got off the airplane and we took a little train to our first Airbnb. And it was late at night, so there was hardly anybody there. I think it was the last train. But there were a group of 3 or 4 Japanese people sitting across from us. And they were really friendly. They were asking where we were from, and they even gave us some little treats that they had I guess they just bought for themselves, but they gave them to us. And they were really nice. So yeah, there are some people that can be really nice. This one's kind of funny, the weird vending machines. So I knew going there right off the bat that like really weird ones, like selling girls' underwear and stuff, were just not going to happen. You just weren't going to find them because they basically don't exist. Maybe they do somewhere, but no place that I went. But I totally went there fully expecting to see all kinds of things in vending machines, and it really didn't happen. Like everywhere that I went was just drinks, mostly. I don't really think there was much else that I saw. It was just like bottles of tea, bottles of water, bottles of juice, lots of cans of coffee, both hot and cold. But yeah, nothing else weird in vending machines. On the internet, I've seen a few weird ones, like I've seen umbrella vending machines online, banana vending machines, but not in Japan myself. I didn't see any. Sorry to disappoint you. Another one is that everything in Japan is super convenient. which is, again, sort of true. There are things like the trains run just every few minutes, which is pretty nice and convenient. It's basically there as soon as you get in the station. Like, for example, there are the stores that don't open until 11 a.m. and they close kind of early too. So, for the night owls or the people who get up early, they're kind of stuck. I mean, you kind of have to buy things when when they're open and prepare and plan to have them for later or the next morning. Another thing that's important for travelers is ATMs. A lot of them have closing times, which makes no sense at all because, it's a machine. Why does it need to shut down? It's not like it needs rest or time off. It doesn't have to go to sleep at night. But, yeah, I mean, in America, an ATM, I remember back in the 80s when I was a kid, some of the ATMs closed. But these days, the only reason one is shut down is if it's undergoing maintenance or something, or if they have to refill the money or something like that. So that's it for my list. Yeah, Japan is a really cool place. I totally recommend going if you're interested. Just keep in mind, it's not necessarily everything you read. There's two sides to every story. So if you liked this video, give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends. Be sure to leave a comment below if you've been to Japan. Do you disagree with anything that I've said? And of course, I am on Patreon too. If you like these videos, you can definitely feel free to support them there. That really helps to keep these videos going and gives me extra time to film and everything. All right, so I'll see you next time.